Hello everyone and welcome to the C2 podcast. In today's episode, my guests and I will be discussing a topic that is becoming increasingly relevant in all aspects of human life, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is rapidly transforming the way we work, live and interact. While it is impossible to cover every aspect in the limited time of our podcast over the next maybe 30-40 minutes, my guests and I will go into some of the most pressing issues related to AI and its impact on the labor market and workers' rights. So let me introduce our guests, Miss Maria Elena Andre. She is director of the Bureau for Workers' Activities, ACTRAF, at the International Labour Organization. She also served as Portugal's Minister of Labour and Social Solidarity between 2008 to 2011, I think. Mr. Ivайло Калфин, he is Executive Director of the European Foundation for the Improvement of Living and Working Conditions, known as Eurofound. He also served as a member of European Parliament and as Bulgaria's Deputy Prime Minister. And Mr. Pламен Димитров, he is President of Confederation of Independent Trade Unions in Bulgaria. With extensive experience in labor rights advocacy, he has played a crucial role in shaping collective bargaining policies in Bulgaria in last decades. So, and of course, finally, my name is Любослав Костов, C2's Chief Economist and Director of our Institute for Social and Trade Union Research and Education. To kick off the discussion, let's start with the recent global developments. Just last week, nearly 60 countries signed the Statement on Inclusive and Sustainable Artificial Intelligence for People and the Planet. During the AI's Action Summit in Paris last week, this declaration aims to promote AI development that is open, inclusive, ethical, safe, secure, and trustworthy. However, However, the United States and United Kingdom refused to sign. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer stated that the declaration does not align with the UK's strategic interest, while US Vice President J.D. Vance openly argued that the AI should be encouraged, not contained. So, what is your take on these recent developments? How does the refusal of US and United Kingdom to sign this declaration impact the global trajectory of artificial intelligence development? Maria Elena?
Thank you very much. I think that the most important points I would like to bring out in that Paris Declaration are the words inclusive, sustainable, ethical, and clean. For me, those are absolutely key when we are discussing the issues of AI. And I think we need to regret that this has not been signed by the US, which is the champion. Well, not really the champion any longer, because we see China has taken over the US on some elements of AI, but at least wants to be the champion of AI, and being left out of such an important agreement where it is very clear that we will need to move towards a regulatory approach when we're talking about AI, especially when we're talking about AI in the world of work, is, from my point of view, a very wrong signal. I think that the UK may probably reconsider its position as we move forward and as the overall world geopolitical circumstances change. So positive to have 60 countries signing this declaration, positive that they bring out in that declaration a number of points that are very relevant for the world of work, negative that we have not been able to bring the big giants on board. But I'm not despairing in that regard. I think that there will be moves moving forward. And I think that the world will have to do this together.
Thank you. Mr. Kалфин, you want to add something?
Yes, probably. The thing is that the artificial intelligence is a disruptive technology. I mean, it's changing dramatically, and the potential is to dramatically change the social contract and the society and the way the society functions. So it's not a technological issue. That's a societal issue. And technology has to serve the interests of the people and of the citizens. That's why regulating this disruptive technology is very important. This is not to contain it, but to guarantee that the use is going to be in the interest of the society. So I can imagine that if you say no regulations at all, this is going to develop very fast. The thing is that one thing is the technological development, but then to use artificial intelligence, and it is getting plenty of functions already, that means that you have to enter the territory, for example, of the European Union, of the European countries. And like I would take the example of the personal data protection, you have to apply this legislation. And even in this case, Europe became the trend leader in the world about regulating the personal data protection. So that's a process where indeed has to take the interest of the society first, and the technology has to be in service of these needs.
Mr. Dimitrov, in the context of Paris Summit, is this a new arm race?
Yeah, someone can say that this is a kind of new race, but it's not nuclear, but actually with the same power. I would say, if you see the artificial intelligence as a disruptive technology, as Ivайло just said, which can change the world, and this is not any science fiction. It's not science fiction anymore. This is really a thing that is happening around us. And meanwhile, the need for regulation is proving to be needed in every second. Even today. Today we actually saw that Meta is under charge, that is misuse data of irregular content. It means that actually not necessarily following this GDPR rules, but also different patent and the copyrights and other legislation, which is really something that they consciously violated. You know? So this is again in attempt to prove that the regulation are needed. And if you start only at the European level, and if you stay only at the European level, it's not going to work. Because the big five, the big sharks, there are 7 already, not 5. If you add some Chinese, maybe even more, they are at the international arena. They're not in Europe at all. So we have EU AI Act, only one, comprehensive, good enough. We have GDPR. We have some, I hope, common sense and common thinking that we need more regulation. We can quote Eurobarometer maybe further during our debate. But if US is saying no, and the new President Trump is saying, I need America great again through exploring the space, going to Mars, having unlimited energy sources to feed data centers, to feed the international, artificial intelligence to that extent that I will be a hegemon of the world, then something is wrong. And I really, I'm wondering together with Maria Elena, why the Labour Prime Minister of UK is there in this company. I don't find any place for him there. So it will be a good question to continue to ask.
So all of us, we know that those who can afford the new technology first have competitive advantages over everyone else. What can ILO and Eurofound provide to support social partners to managing and regulating artificial intelligence? Maria Elena?
That's a very difficult question to reply to. But in any case, I think in the ILO, we have been working on this issue. We have just launched back in September 2024 our AI Observatory, where we want to produce up-to-date research on the impacts, on the intricacies of AI. We are going to launch a standard setting, so an international law exercise this year at the International Labour Conference in order to discuss or to regulate platform economy. This is not going to be an easy conversation. I think what we were discussing about the overall world scenario in this will be highly present in the conversations that we are going to have at the level of the ILC. And in ACTRAF, so the Bureau for Workers' Activities, we have been working hand in hand with unions across the globe in order to make them understand that they need to be present on this conversation. Mm-hmm. This is not something that is dealt with elsewhere. This is something that concerns the role and the responsibilities of trade union organizations, because they need to make sure, if we zoom in the workplace, that whenever these technologies are being developed and implemented at the workplace level, algorithmic management, for example, the use and the collection and the abuse of personal data. And while we have in Europe the regulation and the AI directive across the world that does not exist. So what we've been trying to get across is that unions need to go back to basics in this regard. And they need to bring collective bargaining, and they need to bring social dialogue to the forefront when we are discussing these issues. The use of AI at the workplace level has got to be regulated via collective bargaining, and the use of AI in a more general manner has got to be regulated by overall government regulation. So this is what we have been doing. I'm very proud to say that ACTRA was the first ILO department to produce a brief on AI and on the impact of new technologies. And this was already 3 years ago. So we are a bit ahead of the conversations in this regard, because we understood that the impact of AI in the world of work is key in terms of looking at what is going to be the future industrial relations model, for example. And if we don't get the instruments to the workers to manage and understand what's at stake, then they're going to lose on all the grounds. And if we want it to be inclusive, if we want AI to be ethical and sustainable, then we need to make sure that those who are the objects of the use of AI have a word to say and have a capacity to contribute to the regulation.
We need to be present in this conversation. Mr. Kалфин, will we see growing asymmetries in artificial intelligence development where regulation vary significantly between countries regarding previous questions?
Certainly there'll be, that's why what the regulation is, what's the purpose of the regulation? I mean, to create a different environment. So certainly there'll be differences in regulated and non-regulated environments. The thing is that what we see at Eurofound is artificial intelligence is anyway entering the workplace. And there is no reason to be afraid of it as a new technology. Indeed, there is some shifting of the jobs. I would say it's shifting of the tasks, which means, overall, the job creation is larger than the job destruction there. And what is the challenge actually at the company level? This is the speed of the change and the ability, the possibility of the workers to be trained and to use this technology. Of course, together with all the regulations in what Maria Helena mentioned about human interaction with algorithms, etc., where you need to have a human there, etc. But the thing is, and I think this is the big challenge, that there should be the possibility, the encouragement, the support for the workers to be at top of the developments with the artificial intelligence. And also we look at the collective agreements. And we see that it is very rare in Europe that you have artificial intelligence popping up in the collective agreements. And this is something certainly for the social partners to look at. It can be best regulated, like, for example, the right to disconnect or other issues. It can be best regulated at company level if you have an active, viable social dialogue at company level. So, being sectors, being companies, or being at national level, I would say that the room for a more active role of the social partners is there.
Mr. Dimitrov, you say several minutes ago about the energy consumption problem. Will humans be able to solve artificial intelligence energy consumption problem, or will AI eventually create its own energy sources once it reaches the so-called singularity point? It's a philosophical question.
It's in a way philosophical. Someone can say it's going beyond the present reality and look for future science fiction issues. But yes, I strongly believe that if we don't regulate properly, AI now, both at the global but also at the regional level, and as you said, at the factory level. I mean, the world of work, with directives or specific tools in collective bargaining agreements. Then we can reach the singularity point, and not being prepared as a humanity about that. Okay, I can quote some of the guys. The guru, now is the right hand of the President Trump. Elon Musk said that the singularity point is going to be reached in 2029, and Jeffrey Hinton, he's a Nobel winner on the physics, on a deep AI learning, said that the singularity point is very close. We need a couple of years to reach this. There are many others. I'm not going to go in details, but this is really very, let's say, stressful, at least, or frightening to see around the corner, because 29 is here, and then such a forecast that will happen. And the only thing that could prevent or could slow down this probably right prediction or forecast is the lack of resources, because the need for energy and water at this stage, but water maybe not going to be so important for future cooling of the big data centers, since the energy is producing different ways to cool. But energy definitely will be the source that we need. An unlimited amount of energy, if we follow the singularity point, I mean, exponentially developments of the AI and the resources that we needed. And then we will put ourselves in the top of the paradox of Jevons. We'll say that, okay, the efficiency of the resources used, and at the end of the day, will lead to the more resources that we need to use. And this is actually the endless story. And at the end of the day, we reach your question point, how the AI will resolve this issue, and is able to resolve alone, creating the new energy source coming from the space, for example, based on the quantum physics or some other even more science fiction looking things from the present point. But yes, you have to speak about that. You have to think about that. And regulating the AI deployment in industry, in a society, in the politics, I would say, because it's also there, not necessarily visible, but in the social media, this is quite clear. And disinformation campaigns are based on AI, and more going to be based, and interference of the elections, including the last one, which is coming just a couple of days, very important for Europe. I'm sure that there's also some interference through AI, not to say who, but all this actually leads us to the issue that we have to be very careful, not that we have to open eyes of the humanity, let's say like that, and all the time that we discussing regulation or non-regulation, and to see how we can end with a let's say more transparent and more process, I mean, of regulation, but also of the creation and education of the AI, because this is the key issue: how we educate AI, how we actually learn deep learning process, which is for most of us is it's a black box. How is happening there, and what is actually the data that they use? This is another issue.
Thank you. Now I would like to ask all of you the same question. How can workers protect their personal and labor data in an era where algorithmic management dictates hiring and firing? It's a practical question. Maria Elena?
Well, I mean, I've just hinted at that before already. The only way for that to be not to be the law of the jungle when we're talking about AI at the workplace level is the capacity of the workers to have I would say, an understanding as to how the algorithmic management systems are being programmed and used at the workplace level. B, being able to negotiate with the employers' organizations be at the workplace level, but I would say at all levels, the use and the abuse of those. I think, I mean, going back to collective bargaining, going back to strong social dialogue is, in my view, the key to this. I'm saying this and I'm insisting on this element because in many parts of the world, collective bargaining today is considered to be an old-fashioned tool. And I'm happy to see that in Europe, little by little, we're getting back there. And collective bargaining is regaining a renewed importance. I mean, just looking at the minimum wage directive, for example, and the role that it has given to collective bargaining, again, is, in my view, a good signal to move forward. But I think that this collective capacity to regulate is very, very important. And I also think, just thinking about the words that Pламен Dimitrov has just mentioned in relation to the misuse or the abuse of artificial intelligence or information technologies, in the interference of what are the political systems in our countries, is something that we need to take very, very seriously. Because the ultimate danger is that we are putting at risk our democratic values and our democracies. And I think that while we are zooming into the labor market, the connection with the overall society's effects and societal effects is very, very important. And the need really to have solid information campaigns so that people need to understand what's true and what's not true, although that's very difficult to ascertain. But there's got to be an understanding that there is a lot of intoxication in all those processes. And today, the use of the social media does not allow for people to be able to make the difference between what's true and what's not true. If we continue moving forward in this direction with no regulation whatsoever, then we are heading for a huge disaster from my point of view, because it's our democracies that will be put at risk. We already had some hints at that last week at the Munich conference. So these are signals that we need to be able to read, not just from an European perspective, but from a global perspective.
Thank you. Mr. Kалфин, you want to add something?
Yes, I would look from the point of view of an individual citizen, a worker somewhere. If I have interests, who is going to protect my interests? Certainly, I need the regulations. I need my representatives in parliament, etc., etc. But what if, and we see it lastly, some people outside of the country, because in democracies we usually say, oh, votes are the most democratic thing. I mean, referenda or elections, etc., etc. What if this result is not led by the voters, but it is led by somebody outside of the country who is influencing the voters, motivating some of them with disinformation, demotivating some others not to go to vote, etc., etc., and engineering the final result? Then, am I really represented after this general tool that we have elections? Probably not really. Then what are the other options? The other options is that you look something which is closer to you. You need to get together and to be represented at the company level, at the sectoral level, where you find other people with your interests. So I think that there should be a combination between expectations for regulations being at European and national level and the active participation of workers in defining what is very close to them, what is the everyday life of a worker there. And here I would say that I would not depend or rely only on the parliaments, the European legislation, etc., etc. I would rely on my representatives, that I can go to them, talk to them, ask them to defend my interests, and that's the way to protect your rights.
Thank you. Mr. Dimitrov, algorithmic management, hiring and firing, where is human in command?
Yes, it's the same question that we are trying to ask, to answer, during the last couple of minutes. It's good to back this this statement made both by Ivайло and Maria Elena with some Eurobarometer figures. 77% of these 26,000 people asked for their attitudes to the use of artificial intelligence and the future of work, published yesterday. Actually, 77% said that it's important to have rules which involve workers and their representatives, in the design and adoption of the new technologies. 75% said it is important to have a rule which enforce more transparency in the use of digital technology to handle HR decision making. 74%, almost the same percent, said it's important to have rules prohibiting fully automated decision-making process. So no algorithm to fire and hire alone. And 72% said to limit it the rules that are going to limit the automated monitoring of employees, surveillance. So this is clear majority in European workers, European citizens, that they really want directive to regulate algorithmic systems at the workplace through these issues, and of course to give more power in their hands in the collective bargaining through their representative to fix up the issue.
Thank you. Now, final question to all of you. Of course, artificial intelligence has the potential to lead to endless GDP growth. Maybe he has such potential, but what be the alternative social costs that workers will pay for this implementation into their lives? And conversely, what would be the cost if a decision to limit the use of AI is in the workplace is made? Which direction does the scale tip more? Can collective bargaining help balance these processes? Maria Helena?
Well, I think we have been talking about that ever since we have started this conversation, and the need to give the necessary instruments to trade union organizations has been one of the endeavors that we have been pursuing in ACTRAV in the context of these discussions on technology. As I have said, it's not evidence that unions perceive the importance of this debate and that this is part and parcel of their role in the negotiating table. It's a little bit like the process that was started a few years back in bringing greening clauses in the collective bargaining agreements. We're still very far from being optimal in that regard. There has been a lot of resistance also on the part of workers' organizations, but I think that gradually they have begun to understand that the just transition mantra that we have today in our societies is one where there is a clear interest on the part of workers to understand what this means and the impact it has on their jobs, on their skills, on their livelihoods. And so unions have to embrace this agenda. We are now with the AI agenda where unions have been negotiating on technology advancement for many, many years. This is not new, but it's I would say it's the quick pace of change and it's the complexity of the processes that we are talking about that do require a clear understanding on the part of the unions that this is their job, it is their business. And as we have said throughout, it's their job in the context of the tripartite dialogue with governments in order to get the right national regulations, but it's also their job at the micro level, at the workplace level, and in their capacity to put those clauses in terms of data protection, in terms of the use of the algorithmic management at company level, in terms of the information and consultation that needs to exist at the workplace level in this regard, and that you can only guarantee if you have collective bargaining clauses that do protect that, not just in terms of the implementation, but then in terms also of the evaluation of the results. So we're really going back to the collective bargaining agenda as being key at the workplace.
Thank you for this answer. Thank you. Mr. Kалфин, economic efficiency and social justice and collective bargaining in the middle.
You can square this circle. I mean, it's absolutely doable because this is very much the difference between short term and long term. And I would make a parallel, for example, with the climate change. The big risk, I mean, artificial intelligence is a new technology, which is very good, might be very efficient. It can augment the work. I mean, make workers work better, like the automation, robotization, destroy jobs that are not attractive, etc., etc. The risk there is that it might reach a point where nobody controls that. So the risk is that workers lose their rights, and even they might go to slavery, even worse, not slavery to some people, but slavery to the machines. I mean, if you follow decisions taken only by the machine. And this has to be prevented. It's not in the interest of the society. And here I make the parallel with the green transition. I mean, as long as humans can control the processes, it's important to look a little bit further and not to lose this control, because then there is a point, singularity or something else, where you don't have any more control. And this is one of the potential risks with artificial general intelligence, where the machines are going to take decisions, they are going to ignore humans, and the technology is going to prevail before the society, which is something that I'm not sure that anybody wants. So the sooner we act and channel the technology into a direction which is useful for everybody and for the society, the better, because then it might be too late.
Mr. Dimitrov, what is the future of collective bargaining in this world?
So just to continue what Ivайло just said, and just to make a joke, in the long term, all we are dead, but in the short term, we need to see during the next years how we're going to be exactly in command, human to be in command to regulate and not to allow those technological billionaires, which is now seen very clearly on the top with a Musk on the head. And I don't think that they have some good feelings and thoughts for the humanity. This is my personal view. Being so active and aggressive for profit, but also to gain more power. Political power, hegemony for the Trump MAGA movement. But this is my view. Maybe I'm too not objective. Let's say maybe like that. But if you go back to let's say something positive, it's true that even the last report, Davos report, what the Economic Forum report, just said that during the next 5 years. 170 million jobs are going to be created in this disruptive AI and digitalization and developments, but also some other mega trends, demographic and others, migration. But with a displacement of the 92 million jobs, the netto effect is going to be positive, 78 million jobs. This is good news. Of course, there are a lot of shifting among the jobs. You can see in a technology-driven front line jobs roles in the others, clerks. But at the end of the day, if this is the positive development, so employment is growing, jobs are growing as a figure. And then if, as Maria Elena said, the unions and the representative of the workers are, ready to fulfill their function in the digital era, it means that we have to prepare ourselves. Just to say something good for our organization here, from 2016, actually 9 years ago, our institutes for the research starts to make a desk research on digitalization, and a couple of years ago focused only on AI, specifically on AI, not only, of course, 3D printing is some other development on a distributed ledger technology and the others, but we are trying to prepare ourselves first with some knowledge, and then to invent, in bracket maybe, some new tools. And now we are trying to develop our one educated artificial intelligence by us to serve for collective bargaining purposes. We are in the process of creating group now, expert group, based on the models that we have. They also Bulgarian model, which is not, let's say, easy to educate into Bulgarian only. Maybe we're going to use some of the famous models. This is now under decision, and to look for how and what exactly we need to feed this artificial intelligence with the data for specific companies for their information, which is in the net, in the web. How it's going to be converted at the end of the day with a scenario, what the union shop steward and the bargaining units or bargaining representative for the employers could ask in such a developments of this sector, this factory, and the specific moments in the markets, and this is the, 5% increase of the wages, that and that and that. This is our intention, our dream now, and we are focusing now in the next couple of years, hopefully, to implement somehow the digital technology, artificial intelligence in the core union job. Hopefully,
I hope it's not going to replace the humans and artificial intelligence is going to decide what are going to be the demands of the workers.
So. You have to interact somehow with it.
I think this is a good final of our discussion. Well, that brings us to the end of this engaging discussion. I would like to thank our guests, Mrs. Maria Елена Андре, Mr. Ивайло Калфин, and Mr. Пламен Димитров for taking the time to join us today. I hope our viewers found this episode informative and enjoyable. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, and hit the subscribe and like button for more discussion on the future of work. Bye.